Hey guys, welcome to Bible 365. I'm your host, Kathy Carter, and I am bringing you Revelation 5 and 6 today. So, I'm going to be talking about how we are meeting the Lamb in the vision today and then opening the seven seals. So, if you're interested, I want you to stick with me, and I'll see you guys in just a minute. Hey, welcome to Bible 365. I am your host, Kathy Carter, and this channel is here to kind of merge Bible living with Bible literacy. So, we are going to be using the New Testament this year in order to understand what it's like to live as a follower of Christ. I have a link below in the description that I have a download that will bring you to a chronological Bible reading of the New Testament. So, what I want you to do is read every day and join me and hopefully some friends as we talk about what it means to live as a kingdom builder. Let's get started. Hey, everybody, welcome to Bible 365. I'm your host, Kathy Carter. Today, I'm bringing you Revelation 5 and 6. So, I'm going through everything really fast, so I'm not going into a major amount of detail. But if you have never been here before, go back to at least your Revelation 1 so you can get kind of like the flavor of what's happening. It's getting weird. So what we have learned so far is that the author is someone named John. He is probably the Apostle John, although we don't know for sure, but he does give you a lot of information about himself. And he is writing to an audience and he's writing about the things to come. So this is something that it looks like God revealed to Jesus, who revealed to John, who he wants John to reveal this to the rest of the world. Because this is of the times to come. And this is like, for me, this is like when the Jewish people would have Isaiah, right? Like Isaiah was prophetic things about times to come, and Ezekiel was as well. And so we do see that there's books of prophecy, and we do see that a lot of that prophecy has already come true. And so now he's giving us this prophecy about things that are to come. And so I feel like we should make the assumption that it's going to come true. What it means is a whole different ballgame. So what we have seen so far is that there were seven churches, and these things were revealed again to John, and John saw a person, which again we're going to say is Jesus. He held these seven stars and these seven lamps. He held these seven stars, and there were also seven lamps. It represented the seven angels with the seven churches, and he kind of gave a rundown of what the churches are doing well and what they should be doing. And then we saw essentially what looks like the throne room of the Lord. Lots of bowing, lots of people around there, lots and lots of worship. Angelic beings that we can't really possibly understand what they look like because it seems to be beyond our scope of understanding. From there, we move on to this is in this throne. I'm going to call it the throne room. This is in the throne room that he's looking at. And in the throne room, there's somebody in the center. There's four kind of like heavenly beings around, and then there's 24 elders around there. Then it says, and I see in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside and on the back, sealed with seven seals. So it's back then, and again, not going into a great amount of detail, but things were rolled up. So like if you watch any of these old movies or whatever, you would see like two rolls, and they kind of roll the paper in, and then as the paper is all rolled in, or the papyrus, whatever it's on, wax is kind of melted on top, and that's a seal, right? So all this wax is melted on it. Now, this is a scroll that can't be opened by anyone. They look around and there's nobody there that can open it, right? And then someone goes, wait a minute, there actually is somebody that can open it. And it is Jesus, the Christ, which is the one that can open it. So it says, who is worthy to open the scroll and to loose its seals? They notice that nobody is able to do it on heaven or on earth. So nobody was able to do it. And then John is weeping because no one was able to be found. But one of the elders then says, don't weep. The Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has prevailed to open the scroll. So what has happened is what gives Jesus the ability to open this scroll. Without all of the stuff that has already happened, there wouldn't have been a being that was able to open the scroll. So understanding, like, why didn't Jesus open the scroll from the beginning? Or why did it have to be this? Or why did it have to be that? The way that God has worked out this system, I'm going to call it, for lack of a better word, the way he has worked out this system is it has to progress in these certain ways in order for these outcomes to happen, right? So like without the timing being what it is and the people doing what they were supposed to be doing, this would not have come into being. Now we have this that has come into being, come to fruition, whatever it is that you want to call it, because, right, of the things that Jesus did, the way in which Jesus prevailed, the fact that he was crucified on the cross, he died, and he was resurrected in 3 days. And then he went up into be at the right hand of the Lord. Because of these things, that is why ultimately he is able to open this. Without that, he wouldn't have been able to do that. It's not just because he's God. So then part of this vision is he looks around and he sees, like, so in the midst of those four heavenly beings is another, I'm going to call it heavenly being, right? Because it's, again, another vision that we don't understand. It looks like a slain lamb, but it also has a whole bunch of horns and eyes all over the place. So again, it's like, it's a lamb, but it's not really a lamb. Like, lambs don't look like that. They don't have seven horns. And all of these things represent certain things. So the seven horns, it says, represents the seven spirits that went out, right? So the spirits of God that went out. So they're trying to get us to understand the meaning of what it is that is happening up there in the heavenly places. So it says, and he came and took the scroll out of the right hand of him who sat on the throne. So this is what the Lamb did. The Lamb came and he took the scroll out of the right hand. Now, I just thought it was interesting that right hand was in there, because, like, why are we specifying? Why does it matter what hand is taken out of? And again, not to get too deep in it, but all throughout the Old Testament, there are images of right hand. Sitting at the right hand, right, is a really obvious one. And so there are some basic images at right hand. And I know in Exodus 15:6, there's where it says that his power comes from his right hand, right? The majestic power is from his right hand. He also uses his right hand to destroy. So his right hand is used for very specific things. It also says in Psalm 16:11, in his right hand, there are pleasures forever. So there's something how his right hand represents his power, right? Like his power, his glory, his majesty. This is where destruction comes from. This is where joy comes from. This is, right? So this is why it was taken out of his right hand. Do I know any more than that? No, I'm not going to go into any more than that, except for sort of like what's right there in front of our faces. He says, now when he's taken the scroll, the four living creatures and the 24 elders fall down before the Lamb. So now this immediate circle, and he takes this, right? So like now he's the fulfillment of the thing. They've been waiting for it. No, nobody could fulfill this. Then here comes Jesus as the slain lamb. He comes in, he takes that scroll. He's able to open the scroll, right? He takes it out of the right hand of the Lord. Because they see it, they all fall down and they start shouting how worthy he is. Then after that, more people, it says, like the beings behind, all fall down and worship and say how worthy he is. Then everything in heaven and on earth, everything, it says, falls down to worship the Lord. So it seems like I'm going to assume everything means everything in here, because I think contextually that's the truth. I don't think it just means everything that knows Jesus. I think it really means everything. And so there's a point where everybody knows that Jesus is the only one that can fulfill this, right? What that means, we don't necessarily know yet, but it seems like there's a point where nothing is hidden. Like there's never a point where it's a secret. You may not necessarily understand what that means. You might not necessarily even want to turn to him, right? That doesn't mean that because you recognize who he is. Like it even says the demons know who he is and they shudder. So they know him, but they don't choose to turn towards him, right? So it's the same thing with us. Just because everyone knows doesn't mean that that means, oh, everyone at that time is going to surrender themselves to the Lord. It's just not going to be the case. So, but there does seem to be a recognition that everyone will know who he is. And they all start falling down. It says, I heard the voice of many angels, the living creatures, and the elders. And then it says, every creature which is in heaven and on the earth and under the earth, such as are in the sea, they all worship. And it says, then the four living creatures say, Amen. And then the 24 elders fell down and worship he who lives forever and ever. So now they have acknowledged him as the one who lives forever and ever. And that's the end of 5, but we're going to move on to 6. So now we start opening, not we, but Jesus, the one, right? He starts opening these seals. Every seal has a purpose. Again, I'm going to say what it looks like because I don't know for sure. It's a prophecy. It looks like they're kind of like all opened, right? I don't think, and because I was just thinking about a scroll, right? Like if you open one seal of the scroll, and 6 seals are still on the left on the scroll. And again, a seal is like a welted, and because we're going back, it's not a book, right? It's not like a hardback cover or whatever. This is when they, to giving the thing, it was a rolled up scroll, and then these seals were placed on top of it so you couldn't break it. And so I, if you only take off one, you still aren't able to read. Like the prophecy doesn't necessarily open up, right? You're still not able to read it. So it seems like they've all been opened at the same time, which I feel like would make the most sense. Is that true? You know, take it or leave it, right? But we are going to discuss what all these seals are. So the first seal, it says, when the Lamb opened one of the seals, I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying. So now each seal that is opened, a living creature kind of like shouts out. It's one of those 4 living creatures that are sort of surrounding the Lamb. He says, one of the 4 living creatures says with a voice like thunder, come and see. And then I go and look. And by I, he's talking about John, right? Like John goes and looks to see what's happening because he's introduced into other little pieces of this vision. Okay, so he looks, he sees a white horse. A being is on top of that white horse. It has a bow and it has a crown, and it goes out to conquer. So it's like a conquering king, right? This is the first portion of the seal. Then the second seal is open, and the second living creature says, come and see. And then it's another horse, it's a red one. And this one goes out and it takes peace from the earth, right? That people should kill one another. And he has a great sword. So far we have 2 beings on 2 horses, a red horse and a white horse. One is a conqueror, right? It says he goes out to be conquering and to conquer. And then the other one goes out to take peace from the earth. So far, it doesn't seem that nice, right? Like what's coming isn't all that great. Third one opens, and then another one says to come see. This is a black horse, and he's got scales in his hand. So again, this is a lot about in these times, scales were meant for justice and balance, which is why, like, I want to say Lady Liberty she's blind and she's got scales in her hand, because it's really important to find the proper balance, right? Like, what is justice? What is true? What is honest? I've given this description before, but when they would put out payments, right, they would measure it in the scales. So, like, a denarii would equal a certain amount of weight of whatever this other thing is, right? Like, so it would be weighed in measurements, so things would be equal. And then, like, sometimes if people were shady, they would make their portion of the scale a little bit heavier, so things would be a little bit more expensive, right? So their money would be worth a little bit more than other people's monies. So it was all about making sure that the scales of justice were proper. It was the proper, honest, good, and just scales of justice. Just comes from justice, right? Or justice comes from just, right? Like, you're making sure that everything is what it's supposed to be. And how we know what things are supposed to be is because God tells us what things are supposed to be, right? God delivers justice. God genuinely knows, truly understands justice. And he's the one that tells us what is justice, what is right, and what is wrong. Otherwise, we wouldn't know. We're all like paddling by our own strength, right? And all of our strength is different. We all look different. We all sound different. We all talk different. What happens here is not necessarily what happens in a tiny little village in Africa, which is not what happens in a great city in Europe, which is not what happens in Australia. The things, we have different ideals and opinions. What we thought was really, really good 100 years ago, now we think is the worst thing that ever happened. Disgusting human beings do those things. So we have to be very aware that what is justice is what God understands. Because even now, like, sometimes I have a little bit of trouble with seeing justice. Like, am I properly seeing justice according to the way God sees it? Or am I seeing it the way that the world sees it? And is the world right at this time, or am I right at this time? Christians can have differences of opinions about what is and isn't justice. It is why Christians fight constantly on YouTube. We don't all think and talk and speak exactly the same. So, and we all like understand literature, biblical literature, a little bit differently. So God is the ultimate just being. And so he's sending this being out to right some wrongs, right? Like, this is all about justice. I went into that one a little too deep. When he opens the 4th seal, I hear the 4th one, and it's a pale horse. A couple different translations have a couple different things. It seems to be like, it doesn't mean by pale, it doesn't mean white or like light skinned, like kind of thing. it seems to mean like a deathly ashen gray, right? Like it's not like a solid, like what's we're painting our houses now. It's this like really pretty, like rich gray. It's not those things. It's like it's a lack of color, right? It's like a sickly, ashy, some right green, right? Like a pale green. So it just means like when you see somebody that you know is deathly ill, they're like on their deathbed, so to speak, and we are like, oh, you can tell they're sick. They've lost all their color. That's what he means by a pale horse. So this one comes out and it says it's on a pale horse, and the name who is on it is Death. The one who follows is Hades, which easily could think of like another person, like, oh, hey, Death is with him and Hades is with him too. Um, but it seems a little different like that. Hades has always been a place according to scripture. And so death is kind of traveling with the location in which that these people will go. So that's what it seems like it looks like here. Hades follows with him. The power was given over a fourth of the earth to kill with a sword, with hunger, with death, and by the beasts of the earth. And so a quarter of the earth at this point is going to be taken by death and sent to Hades. And then he opens the fifth seal. So that's like kind of like the first four seals, the four beings we're talking. And then so that's it, four horses. This is where you hear the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And then he says, I open the fifth seal, and then under this, I see an altar with all of these, what seems to be followers of God under the altar. And they're all like, when is it coming? When is, so what they specifically say is, how long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? So they're looking for themselves to be avenged by what people have done to them because of the Lord. And then he says to hold on. They were each given white robes, right? So they were given pure clothing. And they were given white robes. And it says, rest a little longer until those who should be killed have been completed. So it seems like there's more, right? Like, so there were people that seem to be, and I'm gonna assume that these are martyrs, something that we would call martyrs. God's like, there's still more. It's not done yet. Your time has not come yet. Rest a while longer while you're waiting for other people to join you in this place. And then he says, I open the sixth seal. Behold, here there was a great earthquake. Lots of crazy stuff happens to the earth. Sun turns black, earthquake, waters, like all these bad things. Stars from heaven fall to the sky. Mountains and islands are moved. So then, because of all this, people that are here on the earth go and they hide. So they're like running. And it's funny because I think these are the same things that are prophesied in Matthew, where it's like, oh, if you're pregnant, I'm so sorry. It's a rough time to be pregnant, right? Because you're going to be running. And so they go and they run because all of this tragedy is happening on the earth. And of course, it's terrifying. And so everybody goes and they run and they hide. And they're even praying to the point like, please let these rocks fall on me so the Lord doesn't see me. So they, again, I'm going to say that they seem to know that these things are coming from the Lord, right? Like this is the time. And they're so scared that they hide from the Lord. Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand? So they're recognizing at this point the end of the time is coming, and they know they aren't worthy. That's how we're ending chapter 6 today. So it's only going to get more interesting as the time goes on. So I hope you found this to be a blessing. If you have, like, share, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.